I'm not feeling too good today. Um, it's weird. Like when I when I film myself, anytime I do a video of myself, suddenly the quietness of the room is amplified, and every word that I say is 1,000 times louder, and it feels like every word I say has to be more important. Um, Not sure how true that is. That's probably my limited perception, but I don't know. I'd like to make something I look back on and don't totally regret, right? Um, but yeah, I'm not feeling too hot, and this is a feeling I I haven't felt in a while. Um, Lots happened the last couple weeks. Um, yeah, I guess I want to talk about that a little bit, and what's been happening. Too much, right? Life is too much to keep up with. I think that's what we see across the globe is people struggling to keep up with an experience they didn't ask for. And then on top of that, the experience is just too much for one tiny, limited person. So you find all these really interesting artifacts with people and ways of coping and whatnot. Um, so I guess I'll talk about some of mine. Maybe some healing will take place in the process, or maybe something of value can be said, or maybe not. I don't know. I'd rather say it. There's something in me that would rather say it than not. And would rather people see it. I guess I'm only human. I have a desire to be witnessed sometimes. That is very compelling. So, um, my personality is very unstable. I never know exactly who I'll be each day. I think personality is a really strange thing, and oftentimes when I look at people, I always think to myself, like, you don't really seem content with who you're being right now. And it doesn't seem like all there is to you. Um, and I see that in myself too. Like I'm not, um, I'm not like one person all the time, and I never feel totally content with any one character that I embody. That in each moment I could be doing more and being more than I am, and in some ways that's incredibly motivating, and in other ways it's sometimes it's been discouraging because it leads to feeling like I'm never enough, I'm never doing enough, and I've definitely in the past felt like I was surrounded by people that aren't doing enough, uh, which is like a shitty feeling and something I try not to feel too much of anymore. Um, so, um, with that said, life is already, like on paper, I have it easy. I have advantages that many people don't have. Um, but I also deal with things that I think would be very hard to explain to most people. Sensitivities to um, areas of life, details, whatever, that most people just don't give a fuck about. Maybe consciously they don't care. They don't want to care. And I have no choice but to care. And so I'm burdened every day just thinking about um, how fucking horrible life is for everyone. and the shit I've had to deal with that I wouldn't wish on anyone. But at the same time, I have to be grateful because I do have a lot of resources available to me, and I have a brain that works pretty well. There's a lot of room for improvement, but I would say I'm pretty smart, and that is a huge leg up in this world. Being able to see things from the outside, which I think is the only way to see things, it helps. But I am limited. Um, I don't know how vulnerable I want to get here because it is public, but a family member of mine um, was diagnosed out of the blue with stage 4 adenocarcinoma, lung cancer, and it has spread throughout their entire body. Nobody was ready for that. There is no way to be fucking ready for that. It's unbelievable. Like, I can feel the fear and the grief inside of me as I speak right now. And it's manifested in my life already in ways that I want to talk about a little bit. And it's also been incredibly humbling because I realize after hearing that, like, all of my problems pale in comparison. I mean, I can't imagine being told you will live the rest of your life with cancer that is not curable and is only technically treatable, but it will get worse until you eventually die. Like, I can't imagine uh, the changes that would come with that. I feel as though I would be a different person. Um, there would be so much mental load and thinking required, and maybe some action too. Um, this is somebody that I have not been terribly close with, but is still family, and you always care about family above all else. Like, it doesn't matter how close you are when something like this comes up. Every fiber of your being understands how serious it is. Like, it's not it it's more important than any drama, any complications you might have had in your relationship. It's also more important than basically anything going on in your life because someone's life is on the line. And it was hard enough hearing about it. And at first, I felt disbelief because it just didn't make sense. I mean, this person doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, is in really quite good physical health otherwise. And so, stage 4 lung cancer, that doesn't make sense. It should have been any fucking buddy else. Why was it this person? And just personality wise too. I mean, this is one of the strongest people I know. It's just super um, tough. Tough is how I would describe uh, this person, and they had really a big influence on me growing up, and always stood out to me as a very kind of unique character in the world, um, and an honest person, and somebody that uh, always saw through the bullshit and always kind of picked themselves up by their bootstraps. And I do find that inspiring in many ways, but I also worried about this person a lot because I know that holding stuff in is a surefire way to get sick and cynical and closed off. And I do think that's what happened here. And now their stress and their um, pain has manifested physically in the form of a surprise illness. So it's a major, at the bare minimum, it's a major life change. It's also a fucking tragedy because I would expect someone like this to live to 90, um, at least 80. Something about those stubborn people, they just live forever. Um, so I've been reflecting a lot, and I don't know, you always hear people with cancer or people that know someone with cancer. You always hear like it just came out of the blue. Like we didn't expect this, and it's amazing because you can hear that over and over and over, and then when it happens to you, it's still out of left field. I mean, you don't see it coming. I mean, you really just can't ever predict who's going to get sick or who's going to die. It's so fucking random. Um, this guy has everything in the world to live for too, and so to see, to see this person of all people getting sick is devastating, and I can't imagine what they're going through. Um, I don't want to speak on their behalf. If it was important to them to share this, what they're going through with the world, I think they would do so. So all I can do is speak on my experience, which has been unique in in itself. And it's not what I'm about to talk about is not just related to this thing going on because I don't want to make that about me, but it's actually related to kind of a series of experiences where I had to confront and look at death for what it is. Um, I want to start off by saying that I think people are just totally unequipped for most of what life throws at us. And this makes it a lot easier to be empathetic and patient with people because you understand at some point when you see enough shit happen in the world, you understand like, okay, we're Sarah Connor fighting the T-800, or we're the crew from Alien fighting the fucking xenomorph. We're just totally in over our heads with the problems we face, totally outmatched. Um, and we know how this ends. We know we die. And so we really spend our lives trying to somehow make sense out of the journey and carve meaning out of being here at all. And that can be a very fulfilling experience. It can be an amazing experience. And then it can also be very empty or scary because I think sometimes the higher the climb, the greater the fall. Sometimes when things get really good, then you have more to lose. And that makes death actually scarier. It's easy to be depressed and self medicate and be suicidal because you have so little to lose. But when you really care and you want to be here, then death becomes a much scarier monster. And that's what I'm learning as I understand the circumstances that humans are in better and better. I realize now that the way the world is makes so much sense, and the behaviors that I didn't understand before in people, things that I think are sick or annoying or whatever, are really more. Um, they have they have actually pretty obvious and clear causes that um, I would do well to be patient with and understand better, and that's what I've had to learn. And this might sound obvious to most people. I don't think I really do think that academically I'm very smart, but emotionally I have a long way to go, and I'm noticing patterns in myself. I've noticed patterns um, that date all the way back to my early years of childhood. that I think are very much related to my upbringing and the example that my parents set for me, which was to be selfish, self-serving, angry, cynical, skeptical, critical of others. Um, and despite consciously wanting to reject that as an adult, um, I still found myself doing that stuff and embodying those traits. And I think that's a shame. Like, really, that's, to me, if there is any reason for being here, if I have any purpose, I don't think I'm going to find that purpose or fulfill that purpose being a fucking asshole and being so close-minded, more importantly, and missing the truth. If I'm in pursuit of the truth, how can I also simultaneously not investigate the full truth and be open to the full truth? How can I fucking be so caught up in the little stuff that I miss all the magic of the big stuff, which there is plenty of, which is a very scary thing to admit when I think about the totality and finality of death and what that means. Um, so I had a lot of anxiety attacks growing up. A lot of them were related to death. I had nightmares about being destroyed in a nuclear blast, or I'd have panic attacks in the waking world about my heart failing or having a stroke or any number of things. And they all sort of, I think, point into this very fragile existence we have where truly my fears were not unfounded. I had lived a very unhealthy and unstable life, and I had not really confronted death yet. So it's not surprising that um, eventually the life I was living did have consequences emotionally. And I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, because I think pain is a part of being a healthy person. And sometimes we have to acknowledge scary things so that we can make better decisions, even when it's really hard. Um, and I've had such a complex relationship with death, that I don't know that I'll get into here. But I've lost a lot of family members, and none of the losses I have experienced have affected me as much as this next one that's basically upcoming, whether it's in 5 years or 5 months. Um, this person is going to die, probably from their cancer, or with their cancer at least, whether it's from it or not. There is now kind of a timer that's been started. Um, you know, all of the losses that I've had were not surprising in my life. They were, anybody could have seen them coming from a mile away. Some of them should have, by all accounts, happened sooner. I mean, that's the prediction most people would make. Like, why didn't that person die 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Um, so this is the first time I'm dealing with uh, a reality check this extreme. Um, and it's affecting everyone in ways that are difficult, if not impossible, to measure. And I'm not sure that there is a right way to respond to what's going on. Um, there are all kinds of coping mechanisms. You can laugh, you can party, you can distract yourself, but like, um, it's a reminder that life is fucking short and imperfect, and death comes for us all. Even when things are going well, even when you have plenty to live for, death still comes for you. Um, and I haven't found any relief from that, and I'm not sure that I'm supposed to. As a living being, I'm supposed to fear death. It is supposed to be scary because, I'm biologically hardwired to want to live and want to procreate and socialize and have fun and be curious. All of these things are part of being this biological creature. Um, what's so weird about the whole thing, though, is just how complex we are. Like, we're simple in some ways, and I feel like every day I come closer to cracking the code as far as the mechanisms behind why we work the way we do. But we are pretty amazing, especially qualia. I find myself dissociating a lot, and if you don't know what qualia is, it refers to subjective experience. If you close your eyes and imagine, you visualize a triangle, for instance, that's a common example. You can, if you don't have aphantasia, you can actually visualize what you imagine. You can visualize a triangle. Some people who are more uh, imaginative may be able to draw up an entire scene like a castle or a forest. And then for some people, it is going to be limited to basically basic shapes or nothing at all. Um, but there are people out there, like myself, who have incredibly vivid imaginations, and some of that's inherent, some of it's trained, practiced, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Just the fact that that's even a possibility, that matter can have a subjective experience, really raises a lot of questions, um, morally, because we suffer so much, and logically, like, how is that possible? And philosophically, I mean, are we truly here for no reason at all? Is that it? It just feels a bit nihilistic, but it also seems to me like the most correct and obvious answer. I mean, how can we justify like the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Imagine, you're in school, or you have a great career and a wife or whatever. Life is going well. Honestly, it doesn't matter how your life is going. Nobody really wants to die like that. But just imagine your life is going really well, and then you fucking see that bright flash, and you're vaporized or melted, slow cooked. Like, it's not fathomable. Your last moments would be in such incredible fear, and I don't know if there's a word strong enough for what I envision, but you would just be in total rejection of what's happening. I mean, it would just totally overwhelm you, you know, like, this can't happen. This can't be happening. I can't believe this is happening. And then you die. And what I want to know is, I'm not in any hurry to find out. When you die, is it nothing, or maybe if your death is horrible enough, maybe you are imprinted on the world somehow. Maybe ghosts are real. Who knows? But it's just hard to imagine that with all that concentrated energy that you just disappear, right? But what's the alternative? You suffer as a ghost, or energy, or what? I don't know. It's a really weird experience that we have here. Um, so I took a flight to Japan because of the state of the world. I decided I've never taken a vacation. I've been working for 5 years straight with some breaks, but never had a real vacation. I never traveled. So I dropped everything and I went to Japan with no return ticket purchased. I decided if I like it over there, I might as well stay for a while, and who cares if I fucking rack up debt? Like, things are so bad. I just want to do it. Um, I have no regrets. It was one of the best things that's ever happened to me by far. And honestly, that trip, it's not something you can put into words, exactly how it made you feel, but it felt right. Um, it was very tough at times. I was alone, and I was really alone because I was so bitter still and developing. I had kind of a juvenile outlook on people and relationships, and just really struggling with the concept of, like, what does it mean to have a family, to have friends? What does it mean to be somebody versus nobody. What does it mean to heal? What does it mean to love? Um, these are things that I think for many of us don't have obvious answers, and it can leave you in a kind of a limbo state, or bouncing back and forth between different beliefs, whatever. It's very hard to come up with a singular answer, especially for different people who all could have different ideas about that, and all could be right or all could be wrong or some combination. So, um, anyway, so I wrapped up my trip after 3 weeks, hoping to go back because I really liked it. I don't know if I'd live there, but I liked it a lot. Um, that's, that's an understatement. And on the flight back, I remember thinking on the plane, like, if this plane crashed right now, there would be nothing I could do, and I would probably die if we had a midair crash. And that's it. At 23, I just die suddenly because of something totally out of my control that I couldn't have predicted, I couldn't have known was coming. That's incredibly rare, but it happens. It does happen. Um, and it kind of haunted me, and I found it really interesting that such a such a profound philosophical insight didn't come during my moments of calm on the trip, or in some beautiful forest or cemetery or temple, but actually just on the cold and kind of uncomfortable flight back. Um, it gave me this perfect nothing space to really reflect on life, especially in contrast to such an amazing trip, which in itself was very thought provoking. Um, and in many ways, I think that thinking is the opposite of death. I think the most alive thing you can fucking do is think. Um, but inevitably, my thinking led me to the topic of, well, what about when I don't think? What happens when I can't think anymore, when I'm dead? Um, I remember this intense fear came over me, and I didn't believe the plane was going to crash necessarily. I mean, it was kind of a turbulent flight, so I had some concerns, but I didn't believe we were going to crash. But I knew that if we did, there would be nothing I could do. And I had some other insights too that came to me, like actually, if the plane exploded, then the most painful part of that would be the fear that you feel, not actually a physical experience, because just descending, free falling or whatever, that's not painful. In fact, you could view that as a novel experience and be grateful for it. Um, most of life, for those of us who are not suffering from chronic illness, is not actually that painful, but we have this psychological suffering because of fear and attachments and should, right? And so I found that very interesting and relieving in a way, because I have some control over that. If I burn myself with a torch or whatever, I don't have much control over how much pain I feel. That's up to my nerve endings and my nociceptors and whatnot. But in a plane crash, I mean, that's not very painful at all. I could spend my last moments at peace, not think about it too much, or be happy. I have much greater level of influence there. But also, that depends on the day. It depends on my mood, my hormones, what I've had that day to eat, what kind of day I've had overall, or week, months, whatever. I could be grateful for the crash. Maybe I'm fucking suicidal and I just wanted it to be over. And that's a possibility too. And so a lot of our experience ends up not actually being in our control, but ends up being out of our control. Even the way that we experience things, not just what happens to us, but our own interpretations of those experiences, that is not always within our control. If we do have any influence, it is just that, it's influence. It's not instantaneous. So, but yeah, I remember feeling so empty and hollow. Like, wow, everything I've built up to this point, everything about identity and love and who I am, feels like a house of cards that could be blown over at any time by something completely out of my control. Um, and so, in many ways, life and these character traits, toughness, reliability, whatever, trustworthiness, they are very compelling illusions that get us through this thing to the end. Um, my fear is getting to the end and wondering what the hell the point was. It's really scary for me. Or getting to the end and wanting more time to do things I never did. So, so with this cancer thing coming up, um, my response was a little different than that plane flight, that trip. I got kind of hyper vigilant for a moment there. For a couple days, I felt like I had a sense of purpose. Like, okay, this person who has a very strong sense of justice and doing the right thing. This person is sick. I need to step up and do what's right. And I was really convinced by that, and really took that serious for a couple days, maybe a week. Um, but that too has kind of fallen apart because I realized life is so much more complex than any one identity that I can adopt. And I'm actually better off theoretically if I allow myself to be complicated than limited. That I actually don't have to sacrifice my focus on what matters just because I embody so many different um, people. And it is like having different people inside you. Like that's talked about in IFS therapy, internal family systems therapy. Effectively, everyone has different selves within them. These are sort of characters that you unconsciously develop over the course of your life. Sometimes you're walking through a sketchy neighborhood, might puff out your chest a little more, put on a mean face. That's a character there. Or working in retail, you might smile and nod because you want something from people. You want them to finish the transaction. You want them to come back. You want a raise at your job. That's another character. Even your true self, the person you are when you are relaxed and open, and curious, even that will have plenty of traits that you have unconsciously developed or learned to project into the world. And that in itself is kind of a character. And so, and even that character may present in different ways. So for some of us, that's very pronounced, and that's the case for me too. And so maybe some of these philosophical findings are limited to a small percentage of the population, or maybe they are on the more universal side of philosophy. I don't really know. But as far as I can tell, um, we are fragile. We can be fucking squashed like bugs. There's nothing that can stop that from happening to anyone. And that's um, yesterday. Yesterday, that is really what I was thinking about. Um, I work a crazy job. I won't talk about what it is. I want to protect myself and the people I work with and clientele. I don't want to say where I work or what I do, but I worked a job recently that was, God, it was so much at once, especially with what's going on with my, you know, family member. Um, I'll just say this. I was staffing an event that had a lot of celebrities that I didn't know would be there. I was in very close proximity to multi-millionaires, if not billionaires, some of whom I recognized, some of whom I didn't. And it was by total surprise. And it was in one of the most beautiful places on earth. And it just happened. Like, my wage isn't very good at this job. I don't get any benefits, but it's amazing because sometimes it'll put me in these really weird situations that I'm not filled in on at all. I don't get any details. And then I'm just there. And this crazy, weird stuff is happening all around me. And it's surreal. It's really surreal. I mean, there were some fucking A-listers there. There were people that are so high status that they're like aliens. Like Michael Jackson status, like, wow, you're not even human anymore, and that's not to dehumanize these people. I know that's what it sounds like, but they're just so on another level socially, and it's really interesting to see that. It doesn't feel real still. Like, what a weird fucking day that was. Um, One of the first thoughts I had though was based on the amount of security that was there and police. I was wondering, like, we live in some pretty fucked up times in this country. I wonder how safe this place is from a bombing or a shooting. I mean, there was a lot of security, but there were still plenty of weak points. Um, so that kind of worried me. But you have to not think about that stuff too much. And then in the fucking middle of my shift, someone in the city has the bright idea to start blasting this old fucking air raid siren from, I'm sure, 1942 or something. Um, I mentioned having nightmares about nuclear bombs. I had basically a full blown anxiety attack, and I was certain, like, oh, well, that's it then. I'm gonna fucking die right here. And I was so fucking upset. I was thinking to myself, like, fucking billionaires cutting my life short. I figured something had come out in the files that, was not good or something had happened, And so I figured some billionaire just had enough and decided time for a fresh start, right? That's what I thought. But no, there weren't any bombs. I'm still here to tell the tale. But I remember in that moment, I was thinking, like, any second now, I'm going to be ripped to shreds, like vaporized. I'll see a bright flash. I'm going to see all of these people that are happily ignoring this fucking thing that's about to happen. I'm going to see them just for a moment be shocked and terrified and then obliterated. And I too will be obliterated. Um, and that was a really big thing for me to sit with. Um, and in a way, I have to wonder if that's what my family member is having to sit with every day. That reality that they will be obliterated soon, probably. Um, it was a very eerie feeling, and then I really started to get like why we do the things we do because it's so comforting. I mean, in the face of total, absolute annihilation, if that is what's coming for us, lying to ourselves a little bit is the only fucking logical answer. We have to. But I also saw right through these celebrities. I saw right through what they were doing at this place and all the status games they played. I just saw a bunch of children, the popular kids on the playground or whatever. None of these people intimidated me. I didn't feel lesser than them. I felt sorry for them all. I felt really sorry for everyone there because there's no amount of wealth or games to play that can save them from the inevitability of annihilation. And so I didn't see them as these godlike figures. I just saw them as very lost people that have unfortunately had their worst personality traits enabled and reinforced to a degree I don't think we've ever seen in history. and all of it can be wiped away in a moment without notice, without warning, without any time to prepare. You could just be gone. Um, Interestingly enough, in the moments that followed hearing those sirens, and I guess they were doing some kind of testing on those. I don't know what it was. Um, I tried to look it up, but nobody's covered what actually was happening. It was could have been related to the event. It could have been there. There is an actual siren system in San Francisco, so maybe that's what they were doing. They were testing it. I don't know, but anyway, after it stopped, and it happened a few more times, but I never got nervous after that first time. But I have to tell you, there's not a more jarring sound in the world. I mean, it is fucking terrifying. It is one of the scariest sounds. In fact, it is probably the scariest sound I can imagine. I think it is my worst fear to die in a nuclear attack. I would prefer almost any other way of dying, basically. Almost. It is that fucking scary to me. Even if it's painless. It is just such a horrifying way to go. But in the moments following that initial panic, and I had calmed myself down because this is not the first time I've panicked, and I didn't say to anybody like, we're all gonna die. I didn't say anything like that. It's all quiet. I kind of asked calmly like, hey, what's that siren going on? Does anybody hear that? I wanted to get some other opinions. Kind of helps me to talk to people. I thought about taking a 5 minute brisk walk, but I ended up just telling myself it doesn't matter if you walk. If it is a nuke, you're gonna fucking blow apart anyway. So just try to relax where you stand and do your job. And I did. But in those moments following that initial panic, um, after it started subsiding, but I still had adrenaline and cortisol, whatever, in my veins, I felt this incredible momentary enlightenment, this gratitude. I noticed the texture of my coworker's skin and the way that the muscles in his face twitched as he was talking. I noticed the way the light bounced off his face. I noticed the sky and the people and the smells and the ground. I noticed everything in detail that um, I don't think I'd ever seen in my life before, not even on fucking psychedelics. I felt this immense gratitude, even though it was in the face of a scary, scary thing that I was thinking about in the back of my mind that I knew would totally overshadow any of my gratitude. It would just totally wipe me out if it happened. I still felt, in fact, it was totally strengthened. This gratitude and understanding that, okay, life is illusory. We are all kind of crazy just to make ends meet. But I don't think I have to be so cynical about that because now I understand a little bit better why that is. And at the expense of maybe my sanity each day and my my overall happiness, I can at least be more empathetic than I was. And there's a kind of peace that comes with that, even though I'm terrified of dying. I'm terrified of dying in a way that's so horrible. And it's not fair because most people who've ever lived have died. So who am I to say that I shouldn't? But it's that one thing in life you only do once. And it's so final. And I don't know how anybody can be totally rational in the face of death. I wish I could say that it motivated me to do the things I always wanted to do, and in some ways it did. Um, but also, in many ways, it reminded me that even if I do those things, I'll die. So it's both. I both have an imperative to do things I want to do, and I have to weigh, I have to consider what I want to do much more heavily because I don't want to be on my deathbed regretting everything I've done. So there, for me, there are heavy considerations that come with every action taken, including recording this very video. Um, I have a coworker, and I want to talk about this too because it is fucking absurd. I can't. I have to acknowledge that this is absurd in the face of death. It is absurd to even think about good stuff, the awesome stuff. Right now, in this moment, it feels absurd for me to even think about this, but I'll mention it in this video in case, in case anything comes from it. Maybe not. I have this lovely coworker, and I don't want to share too many details because again, I got to protect people that I know. But she's awesome. She's really friendly. I was making like we had shifts together before, but we didn't talk at all. In fact, I haven't really seen her talk to anybody. And then when I got there on this shift, there wasn't anybody else. But like the first thing, the supervisor, which by the way, he's fucking awesome too. I'm so lucky to have the coworkers I do. And I felt that way before all this happened. Like I seriously have the best coworkers. But the boss man, he was super. I told him like, hey, I'm 30 minutes late, sorry. And he's like, no, don't sweat it. I'll still put you down for, your arrival time. And I was telling him that I had to like fight with security to get my badge for the event and stuff. And he was telling me the same thing. And then he tells me like, okay, do me a favor real quick. Actually, he asked me, he's like, hey, can you go, tell this girl that's working here to go get her wristband? And so I did. And I went up to her and I was like, hey, you work for the company, right? And she was like, yeah. Because I think she had her hair different. We never talked, so I was just making sure. And I was like, all right, I, I hear you got to go get your ID. And she was like, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. And where is it? And I told her, oh, it's over there. And then I was like, you might have to fight with him a little bit, but you'll make it happen. And she kind of chuckled. And then, like, the whole day, I was just cracking these one-liners. I was really cracking her up. And that's an awesome feeling in itself. Not for my ego, but just the joy. Seriously, I want to document this. The joy of seeing someone laugh is one of the purest, best joys in the fucking world, and nobody can take that away from me. Um, and so I really just liked. I mean, I was making her crack up, and my supervisor, and I'm pretty awkward sometimes, but I think it kind of catches people off guard when I say funny stuff, and they were really cracking up. I made some pretty good jokes yesterday, and I attribute that partly to the supplements I've been taking and sleeping better, and also just relaxing socially, not being so fucking uptight, letting myself relax. It's good for other people when you're relaxed. But I noticed like she really was starting to open up to me, and in her free time, she spent a lot of time talking to me. Like, we'd be on other sides of the lot, and she'd like come over to me and talk to me. And never seen her do this with anybody else. She didn't do it with anybody else working that job. She came and talked to me, and it turns out we have a lot in common. I can't share too much about what that is, but the conversation quickly went from like, how long you've been working at the company to talking about personal interests and like not just any personal interests, but the ones that would determine compatibility in a relationship. And I picked up on that pretty quick. Now, I don't expect anything. I don't have any expectations. I don't know that anything will come of it. It's honestly based on how life has been going, it's unlikely. But I'll leave that door open. Like I can be grateful that I'm somebody that she felt comfortable talking to and obviously wanted to talk to. And I'm not going to self doubt and think that I was just being annoying or whatever. Like she came up to me. She wanted to talk to me and uh, mostly me. So I'll take that as a win. But more importantly is like I got to see that beautiful, awesome human laugh so much and smile so much and just bond a little bit. Like I may never see her again. That's okay too. Like I'd like to, but there are people in the world. It's not like there's this one person. But when that when I had that fucking anxiety attack at work, I remember thinking like, man, I'm so grateful that well, first of all, I thought like I knew today was going too well. I knew it. But I also thought to myself, I'm just so grateful to have gotten to talk to this person, like either of these people, but especially this one because we were just really hitting it off. um, yeah, career wise, we have a lot in common. Hobbies we have in common, basic life skills, philosophies, sense of humor, everything is there. So I don't know if the foundation is being laid for something more, but I think it's important, and I would say this to anyone, like, don't let cynicism get in the way of trying things. If I end up, you know, deciding that I do want to ask her out on a date, or she asks me out on a date, like, that's okay. And if I don't, that's okay, because either way, life is going to suck. So it doesn't really matter what you do. But there's always going to be what you want to do. And so, like, if I want to do that, I will. And I'll deal with the consequences when they get here. But there's no room for self doubt when, at the bare minimum, you know that you're a safe person, you know that you make people laugh, you know that people like to open up to you. I think that that is a really, it's something to be grateful for and to cherish, that you get to be that person and you get to make people's days a little bit better. You might not fix their day if they're having a shitty day, but you got to brighten their mood a little. Like, that's something to be grateful for, regardless of what you get out of it beyond that. So I just want to make that clear. Like, I don't have any ulterior motive here. I just really liked her company, but I guess this is sort of a diary in a way. If anything comes from it down the line, then I'll have this video log where I recorded myself being imperfect and vulnerable and stuffy. I have a fucking such bad swollen sinuses today. That's why my voice sounds all shitty. You know, it's like a time capsule. And if we grow old together, which probably not, but I'll probably be dead tomorrow. But if that happened, then I could look back on this, or we could, and mutually recognize that initial spark that led to that whole thing playing out, which would be pretty cool. The other option is that nothing comes from it, and I watch this video later by myself or with someone else, and I recognize, like, oh wow, I've changed a lot, and it's so funny to see, like, the people I was interested at the time, or what I thought was going to happen, what I wanted to happen, and then things actually ended up panning out a totally different way. Maybe better, maybe worse, whatever. It doesn't matter. Um, it's, to me, one of the best things you can do is document honestly who you are, so that you can refer to that when you question if you've changed or developed over the years. Um, like I said, I'm still way behind in some ways, like emotionally and socially. I struggle. I'm not perfect, um, but I don't think I pretend to be. Like, you know, I like to make jokes at my own expense without sacrificing my sense of worth. Like, I know I'm attractive, or I can be. I'm not saying I'm attractive right now, but like I can be. That's a skill you can practice. Like, I can be attractive to some people. I don't think I can be attractive to most people, but like, yeah, I can be good looking and friendly, generally speaking, to at least some amount of people. So like, I don't need to question that. That doesn't mean I don't question it, but it just means I don't need to. Um, anyway, some of this stuff might not sound totally related, but my biggest point here that I want to expand upon, the number one point, is that all of these things have led me to the same conclusion, which is that I could not have learned as much as I have if I referred to someone else for their ideas about what it is to be alive. Um, society is all about convention and norms and popular ideas. Even if it's popular in a small group, that's still popularity because you're never really surrounded by more than a couple people at a time. You're not surrounded by 8 billion people. You're surrounded by whatever group you surround yourself with. So that's really the only area where popularity matters in your life. Um, but I think that like lifting weights, you can't have somebody else do it for you. And it's the same for thinking. You can't have somebody else do it for you. There are so many things that people want me to be, so many ideas that people want me to have, and I just refuse because it doesn't feel right for me. And what does feel right is becoming clearer and clearer as time goes on because I'm not distracting myself with other people. Um, I love being around people. People are fucking awesome. I love a good day, having fun and just shooting the shit. That's great. But I have my own ways of going about it that don't necessarily align with what society would tell me to do. I don't go to like meetup groups or bars or clubs. I just don't enjoy that stuff, really. It's not for me. I'm not here to criticize anyone that wants to do that, but it's just not for me. But like, if I'm working a fucking manual labor job, you best bet those coworkers are going to be some of the most down to earth fucking people you've ever talked to. And I think that's where connection really starts to happen is through the kind of shared misery. Um, and I live for that discomfort. I really do. I live for that alleviating of others' suffering. Um, I have a mustache. Mustaches are kind of in right now, but I have a mustache for my own reasons. I wouldn't care if they were hated by society or loved. It doesn't matter. Like, this is for me. It doesn't necessarily make me more conventionally attractive, I don't think. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't change who I am. This is an extension of who I am. This is something that feels right on my face, even if that's hard to explain to other people. And I don't need anybody's approval. Somebody could be like, that looks fucking stupid. Okay, that is your interpretation of my experience. And so, like, I may shave it, I may not, but for right now, this feels a lot more honest to who I am and who I would like to be than being clean shaven or just having stubble or a long beard. And that goes for the hair too. This short look, this is intentional. I like this exact length. I don't want it longer. I don't want it shorter. I like it right here. That may change. It may not. Um, I don't always understand the psychology behind these decisions, but I think it comes down to practicality, reliability, trustworthiness, uh, style. There's a bit of style in a mustache. Um, it's unfortunate because of how many conservative, manly men have mustaches. I think it's a shame because I think it's so much more than that. But my identity extends far beyond my facial hair, so it doesn't really matter who I look like because it's me. Like, I wear it for my reasons that nobody could have told me. Like, no one can tell me why I wear my clothes or my facial hair the way I do. No one can tell me what's right for me because truly what's right for me is what I've been doing lately, prioritizing physical health, prioritizing my mental health, not engaging in old habits as frequently, and trying to really replace them with new habits. Getting out of the house, not being sedentary, um, but also not forcing myself to do things I really don't want to do. Like if my interest is in something on my computer, I can double down on stuff on my computer. Like there's value there. If my interest is in going and taking a fucking 10-mile walk, I can do that. Um, I don't think that I need to socialize or settle down with somebody right now if I don't want to, because like my value, um, both intrinsically and socially or whatever, I think really should extend beyond these cookie cutter measures. these molds that we're expected to fit into. Um, I don't think that people can be quantified, even though they like to be. It's kind of within our nature or maybe nurture to um, categorize ourselves and see patterns where there are none. And that works really well with capitalism because we turn ourselves into these machines. Like, I'm the worker machine, I'm the scientist machine, I'm the teacher machine, whatever. Um, but I think the scary reality that people don't want to sit with is like, you're none of those things. You are those things, but also you're much, much, much more than that. And when it comes to attraction, when it comes to being seen or seeing someone, you fucking see right through everything that they've tried to be. You see right through every label they assign themselves or they've ever been assigned. You see right through to the soul, if there is such a thing. You see right through to the awareness, the presence behind the eyes, the person that is within. That's what you see. And it's impossible to really put into words, but even in this video, you can see in my eyes, there's a person in here. You can hear it in my voice. There's a person. I'm not sure how science will ever explain that, but it is something that we understand intuitively. So I think where a lot of people are lost is in trying to be a person when you already are a person. Being the best that you can be is not about attracting mates or attracting friends. It's about understanding that by the time you inevitably meet somebody who wants to spend time around you, you don't want to be a total dickhead to them because you haven't dealt with your shit yet. You want to have good hygiene if it's a romantic relationship, unless they're into you not showering or something, that's fine. But like, you want to be the best version of yourself that you can for others, for other people, the sake of just fucking pure altruism. Um, and you hope that through all the shit, you can make the world a better place and that you can lead your own operation and fucking rely on yourself so that other people can rely on you. That's what you really, I think, hope for in this life, even if you don't know it. Um, Even if you try to convince yourself every day that you're a villain or that you're the enemy or whatever, that you're unprepared. I think that this is always within all of us. But whether you choose to pursue that or ignore it is up to you. So I've been talking for an hour. I should have been a college professor. I'll leave you with that. I don't know what I'll do today. Probably rest. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. Don't stop thinking. There's no better time to start thinking than right now. And there is no better time to just maximize all the good stuff in your life and see what happens. Just see what happens. Oftentimes we get so caught up in one area. Just focus on your diet or focus on your sleep or focus on this or that. Do it all as much as you can and just see what happens. Because these things overlap. Just see what happens. And if you fucking hate it, you can go back to hating yourself and drinking, smoking, whatever. You can always go back to that. And if that's stuff that you feel like you need, so be it. That's who you are right now. You don't have to change that. Something I wish people would tell people is like, sometimes the flaws that you're told to change don't actually need to change. Like, sometimes we do have to accept how little control we have over what makes us tick. So I don't think that leaves very much room for shame or judgment when we look at it that way. Yes, I think I will rest after my rant. But think about this stuff. And argue with me if you must. Tell me how wrong I am, how annoying you find me. That's okay. I can take it. Tell me if I'm crazy. discussion is good. Open discussion, honest discussion is good. So I think we should do maybe a little more of that. Maybe we won't feel so alone.